What a day. Is this today really happening? Is this really happening? What a day.
It's been a long day. I didn't think it would be a long day. I didn't even stay up until midnight. I went to bed early last night.
Yeah, I went to bed early, but it was catatonic on the couch. I tried to tough it out. All right, so terrorist attack in New Orleans. This guy's a homegrown American, was radicalized by ISIS. Apparently, he was having family trouble. His wife left him, divorced. He went nuts.
Living in trailer parks. None of his entrepreneurial ideas worked out. There's a video of him talking about being a real estate property manager on YouTube.
Apparently, he's released some videos, too, that they're holding on to. That'll make their way out there soon.
Driving from Texas to New Orleans. But what's interesting to me is that the FBI has been clear that he wasn't acting alone. So not only, and I don't know if you saw the latest, I did send it to us, but not only did he rent this Ford F-150 Lightning from Turo, which, and I said this to you when we first saw rumors that it was an electric pickup truck that he drove into this crowd in New Orleans. I said, like, that's probably why the fatalities are so high, because they're up to 15 fatalities now and dozens more injured, some very seriously. Electric vehicles are extremely heavy because the batteries are very, very heavy. So this Ford F-150 Lightning, an electric vehicle rented on Turo, which is like, it's the Airbnb of renting fancy cars. So if you can't afford a fancy car, but you want to get one, you can go and on here and you can rent for a day some super fancy car. I actually know of it because one of our kids for a while was obsessed with Bumblebee, the Transformers movie with John Cena in it.
Right.
And Tom's brother rented him for a day. What's the Bumblebee car called? The yellow what? What is the car? A Camaro.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
The yellow Camaro for the day, so that it was like the real life Bumblebee. So that was cool. But anyway, Turo is this car app that lets you rent these fancy cars. So not only that, but a Tesla Cybertruck that was also rented on Turo exploded with the driver inside outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas today, injuring several people, fortunately not very seriously, within the hotel.
Right. The driver
was killed. So a suicide attack there.
Which was in the true form of the word, a spectacular explosion. If you saw it, it was like, wow. It looked right out of the movies. Amazing. So obviously something's up. I mean, there's no way the Trump connection.
So, and initially people were like, when it was at the Trump Hotel, they were saying like, oh, it's just a car fire, no big deal. And I even said to you, because this was right after it happened, when I helped you on your radio show today, like these electric cars do get battery fires sometimes.
Right.
It's not unheard of. So when people were saying it's just a fire, but then reports came out that it actually did explode, including from people who posted videos who were right there. And video actually came out of the car exploding. It very clearly was like fireworks or whatever, an IED explosions. One of the people said it was like 3 distinct explosions, an initial one with the fireworks, and then when the battery went, and then one more. So
you mean, as the Globe would say, one person dies when Tesla truck catches fire and explodes outside Trump's
Tesla truck catches fire.
Freaking amazing. Amazing. So, among other things.
Very clearly a connection here. But now the FBI has been in Houston, Texas all day, where this terrorist who ran over everybody in New Orleans is from. And they have now apprehended another person. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I saw the video.
At his Houston home. So the local Houston news there has drone footage of them arresting this guy. They have a big armored truck with all these armed people. They're arresting at least another terrorist. So this is a full-fledged sleeper cell of terrorists. I mean, homegrown, immigrant, like whatever they all are, the only one we know about is this guy who was 42 and was born in the United States. And he served 10 years in the Army. Obviously terrorism's not funny, but I did see a little bit of funny humor because he was a data engineer.
Right.
About like, we need a complete and total shutdown of data engineers until we can figure out what's going on, because him and Luigi Mangione had very similar jobs. So, but yeah, like working for big name companies too, both Ernst & Young and is it pronounced Deloitte? Deloitte.
Touche or whatever.
Deloitte, the big consulting company. He'd, obviously a fairly accomplished guy in some sense, but I also wonder, due to like the short tenure at some of these jobs, if maybe some other
He was a
deal
little
was
flaky,
going
and
on.
it finally went sideways. Another thing that makes us totally, and it's a horrific thing that he did. I mean, that's a horrific way to go. I saw the guy I work with actually sent me his cousin's video, who was there in Bourbon Street, and I haven't shown you this today. And it shows some of the people lying on the sidewalk, and they're just ripped to shreds. There's a woman who's essentially they had to cut her out of her clothes, and she's a young, beautiful woman a lifeless woman. It's just freaking horrific.
It's terrible.
What a thing this was.
It's terrible. Like I said, up to 15 dead. It's a very deadly terror attack.
Yeah, and there's something about like this, like with the Nova concert as well. When you go from people, and especially I think with young women, young lovely women out smiling, having selfies with their friends who are suddenly just absolutely annihilated. It's freaking dark. There's also something weird happening. The mayor, the pressers that were had are showing that they're not bringing their best. This is the mayor of New Orleans yesterday addressing the press. This is just fine.
Good morning. First of all, we do know that the city of New Orleans was impacted by a terrorist attack. It's all still under investigation.
So she gets out there, and that's fine. And the FBI spokesman gets out there, and this lady ain't ready for prime time.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found. And we are working on confirming if this
improvised explosive devices that was found. She can't speak. She's a moron.
Well,
she shouldn't be involved.
So a few people have been upset online that she's been called a DEI hire. Saying, like, you can't just call people a DEI hire because they're black. Which, in general, yes, you can't call somebody a DEI hire just because they're black.
Sure. But
as several people have pointed out, she has a nose ring, which supposedly isn't allowed under FBI dress codes. And in addition to that, New Orleans area FBI just had a big DEI hiring event.
Right. She has a nose ring, and she can't speak English. And she's a spokesperson, so that you can't have that.
They've been advertising that they're making DEI hires recently in this specific area. So then when somebody who meets the criteria for a DEI hire shows up and starts making dumb statements and doesn't seem qualified for their job, you can't really blame people for drawing conclusions like that.
Right. And then you've got this lady, the 82-year-old chief of police, who was fired from Oakland Police Department, who just ran over a couple of pedestrians a few months ago, this year already. I don't know what she's doing in this position.
In order to conduct this, he was hell-bent on creating the carnage and the damage that he did. Because of the nature and the indices that we have on the scene, and we have enough information that the FBI will be taking over this investigation. And with that, I am going to be asking, this is the assistant agent in charge. This is Agent Duncan, Special Agent Duncan.
Special Agent Duncan is not smart. And Special Agent Duncan goes on to tell people to stay away before the police chief comes back and tells everybody to enjoy New Orleans.
Viable device or not. As Chief Kirkpatrick said, we're asking everyone to stay away from Bourbon Street, specifically from Canal Street to St. Anne. That is my ask. Once again, stay away from Bourbon Street, Canal Street, all the way to St. Anne until we can figure out what is going on. Our goal is to provide you additional information at the 11 a.m. press conference. Thank you so much, and we will be in touch.
Yes, I will say that
back comes the police chief with an entreaty for possible tourists to indeed enjoy the Big Easy and come back and party.
Want our community and our visitors to continue enjoying. There's so much to enjoy about New Orleans, and we are going to make sure that our routes in the Superdome are safe today for the game, and yet we had this tragic event.
But come down and party. It is
interesting. I had heard that they were still going to do the Sugar Bowl, but it sounds like they're going to be postponing it a day.
They did. It's tomorrow now.
Okay. Yeah. When today did that happen? Because earlier they were still saying it was still going to happen.
It was. This is Joe Biden here.
after the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours. To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want
give me a break.
Nolans.
you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. I want to thank our brave first responders and law enforcement personnel who stopped the attacker in his tracks before he could kill or injure even more people. And I want to thank you to everyone at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, including the FBI.
Why are we
working
thanking?
nonstop?
Why are we thanking? Why are we thanking? Why are we fucking thanking? This fucking guy took 18 hours to get out there and speak. This guy needs to be impeached. Everybody involved in this guy being the president right now, this infirmed, useless husk, needs to be freaking
It's terrible.
prosecuted.
And, you know, as Phil points out in our chat, too, by the way, the FBI owns this because they've been going after parents who go to school board
Sure.
meetings and pro-lifers and, you know, Catholic churches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, while they're not worried about Islamic terror, who knows how many
Well, right. And that's why,
cells
why
are
is it so
growing
close
in the
to the,
United
why is it
States.
so close to the front of the speech, which, by the way, somehow C-SPAN got too late, a couple seconds late, which means the communications department and C-SPAN both blow. Why is this guy so close to the speech doing a victory lap for law enforcement? Obviously, they fucked up. Jesus Christ. How many freaking guys barreling down Bourbon Street and how many freaking exploding Teslas do you fucking need here? Maybe it's not time to slap the back of law enforcement. Holy shit, this enrages me.
Especially like the FBI law enforcement, not even as much like the local on the scene first responder type law enforcement, who clearly rushed right in and did what had to be done and killed this guy because he came out of the truck after he ran everybody over firing.
Right.
So, I mean, like, thank God for the law enforcement that was on the scene and, you know, went and killed him right away. But like the FBI has not exactly covered itself in glory here so far.
Yes. And it is not the time. But these people are such goddamn just burnt in pieces of the Beltway establishment that that's all they know to do is make sure you give the best. FEMA's doing great. Don't say anything about FEMA. Don't complain about FEMA because you're going to undermine them. Meanwhile, we find out that FEMA was doing effing up just like we always thought they were.
Right.
This is a freaking guy.
Investigate this
I hate
heinous
this
act. The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what
They're
happened,
what in the investigation?
why it happened, whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. Here's what we know so far.
Can I say one more thing, by the way?
Yes.
Which is that the fact that they're trying to figure out if there's any further threat to public safety, what does that mean to you?
They don't know anything.
To me, it means there's absolutely a continued threat to public safety because normally what they always say is there's no threat to public safety
Sure.
even when there is. But in this case, the fact that they're saying they don't know means that this was bigger than they're saying they missed something big for once.
And he also shouldn't use the word, he shouldn't emphasize the word the FBI as if we're all still bowled over here by the FBI. They've got zero credibility. Don't even use the word because that gets people to lose peace of mind. The FBI, fuck you, the FBI. It's like saying the CDC assures us that these vaccines are safe. Nobody believes you anymore.
The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years.
It doesn't help us to hear this freaking idiot slur facts that we all learned 14 hours ago.
Well, right. And why is he presenting those facts first?
Right. Because he doesn't want us to beat up Muslims from Pakistan. Because he's yelling at us.
Specifically, the only reason you would say he's an American citizen born in Texas who served in the Army is if you're trying to create an impression of something that is not the case.
Right. Because you're so cynical that you assume that the country full of garbage is going to target Muslims. That's right. And that's what he thinks and other people around him think. We have to emphasize law enforcement's doing great. Emphasize that this person was looks like Trump people. He looks like the January 6th people, and he acts like them, okay? Fuck. They can't do anything without trying to manipulate the reaction and behavior of the populace. And that's why they're fucking cancer.
He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
What he meant to say is it's inspired by a desire to kill, but he said especially because his fucking mind is gone. I'm sorry I'm swearing so much.
True.
I didn't mean to.
The report is that, so and these videos haven't been released. They managed to wipe these before these were widely out there, apparently. But I guess what he said, according to news reports in them, is that he thought about gathering his family together for a big announcement and then killing his whole family. But then he changed his mind and decided to run over a bunch of people in New Orleans and join ISIS. So.
Right.
The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well, and more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. And the fact is that
I find it a little odd, by the way, that he'd be flying the ISIS flag on a road trip from Texas to Louisiana. I know that I'm going to stick a pin in that thing. You know, he had the flag, so he was ISIS. He had a MAGA hat. He said, now that Trump won, this is okay. It's like, I'm just taking that with a grain of salt. I don't know what Biden is thumbing through his trapper keeper.
Right now, excuse me. There you go. The law enforcement and intelligence community are continuing to look for any connections, associations, or co-conspirators. We have nothing additional to report at this time.
This effing guy sounds like he's 11 martinis in.
Yeah.
He's lost the teleprompter. That's what he was doing, is trying to find...
Morgan in the chat says it's so cute Joe Biden is still pretending to be president. Like, it's sort of cute, but it's also sort of alarming.
Amazing.
The investigation is continuing to be active, and no one should jump to conclusions.
Wait, what?
Go fuck yourself.
What conclusion are we not supposed to jump to?
How dare these people, the most incompetent administration in the history of American politics.
What about this isn't what it looks like?
No, you better not jump to conclusions. Don't you dare. We'll jump to whatever the fuck we want to. You don't own us, dude. Jump to conclusions. Don't jump to conclusions like the idea that perhaps the cocaine in the West Wing belongs to Hunter. Don't jump to conclusions that the freaking laptop was accurate. All the conclusions we've jumped to have been spot on, by the way. Don't jump to conclusions.
How many intelligence officials told us that laptop was Russian disinformation?
Well, including the FBI. Mac.
I've directed my Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, and the intelligence community to work on this intensively until we have a full and complete information. And once we have that information, I will share that information as soon as we can confirm it.
Well, thank God we reacted to the October 7th attacks by putting together a commission to address Islamophobia, because that's really worked out well, I think, for everybody, don't you?
Right. And as soon as I get it, I'll report it to you. We don't trust you. I don't trust you. I didn't trust your buddy when Bin Laden, quote, was killed by the Navy SEALs, who said, we're not going to publish the picture. That's not what American people do. That's not good for relations around the world. We're not going to publish the picture. But you can believe that he's dead because I saw the picture. And I'm telling you. Well, the fact that you said it, Barack Obama, means that I believe it less. It's true. I saw it. That's how you know. It's like, fuck you, dude. You're a lying piece of crap, too. Oh, I'm sorry this is so rated R, guys. Sorry about the people with kids.
No, everybody loves you in the chat. It's true.
I just, it's the Biden thing just freaking triggered me.
Additionally, we're tracking the explosion of a cyber truck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well.
Is the FBI involved?
Including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time.
The internet will figure out that attack far.
Dave in Florida says, so he directed Merrick Garland, Chris Ray, and Alejandro Mayorkas to figure all this out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
In the next 19 days, they're going to get it figured out.
I directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement.
To be honest with you, Alice, why doesn't just Elon just hire the Pinkertons or whoever the modern version is to go in there and figure it all
Elon
out?
already, I mean, because this was a Cybertruck, obviously, they had all the data and they said everything was right with the Cybertruck up until it exploded. So it clearly was like an explosive that was planted in the truck. It had nothing to do with the symptoms of the truck or anything like that. So he's already on it in that sense. But yeah, I definitely think that we're starting an era where, because nobody believes federal law enforcement, there is going to be private security type people on this. And I mean, like, haven't you heard, I forget if we talked about it on this show or if we just talked about it offline or if I just read about it or where I heard this, but I was reading something about how, like, private security people are so freaked out now by the Luigi Mangione shooting thing, that this is going to be like an absolute, I think it was a Twitter thread I was reading about it, to be honest, but that all private security people are like on edge, and that basically this is going to be like the golden age for private security resources being hired for stuff, because there's like no law enforcement.
Well, yeah, and also because if this shooter we find in his manifesto is said he did it for Palestinians, he's going to be a hero to many people.
Yeah, they're marching for Palestine right now. Where, in like New York or somewhere? I forgot. In another place,
right?
city.
And I also think here's another thing that I think that our listeners can understand. If Elon's Pinkertons in security team or like investigative team knock on our door and ask us questions, we're more liable to answer their questions than if the freaking feds come over and ask us questions.
Right.
Of course. So we can end up in a freaking Jan 6 jail for a process crime. Like, F that, dude. And I am no way. I'll take private security. Like, I know you're talking about protection, but if they're investigators, I would do
private protection, private investigators, all that stuff. Because how can you possibly trust law enforcement right now?
No, certainly not the Department of Justice.
No.
God, no.
To complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly, and to make sure there is no remaining threat to the American people. And we'll support the people of New Orleans as they begin the hard work of healing. New Orleans is a place unlike any other place in the world. It's a city full of charm and joy. So many people around the world love New Orleans because of its history, its culture, and above all, its people. So I know, while this person committed a terrible assault on the city, the spirit of our New Orleans will never, never, never be defeated.
Oh, shut up. New Orleans strong. We get it. It's like, oh, God.
It always will shine forth. We've seen that time and time again throughout its history. And I know we'll see it again in the days and weeks ahead. May God bless the people of New Orleans. May God bless our police and our first responders.
So it seems like right now would be a good time to take a few questions from reporters, if there are reporters there. Seems like this would like be a really good time.
Camp David? I doubt it.
Well, why not? Why wouldn't you let some people? Why wouldn't you let the pool people in?
May God protect our troops, and we'll keep you fully contemporaneously informed. Thank you.
Have you spoken to President Trump?
Are you concerned about war attacks?
Shuffle.
Have you spoken to President Trump?
Investigated as a terror attack?
And that's it. Out he goes.
After becoming the longest.
I hate him. I do. He's just such a terrible force for terrible everything. Oh. How are things going rape-wise in England, Hells?
Well, yeah, this is...
Talk about government. Here's another example of a government supposedly protecting you.
Well, yeah, so this has been... They've released a bunch of documents related to this Rotherham... what was called at the time the Asian grooming gangs, which had nothing to do with Asians or grooming, but basically they've released a bunch of documents related to this sex abuse scandal in Rotherham.
Right, and we talked about this 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, so it occurred from the 1980s until 2013. And it started to get busted people started to report about it in like 2011, 2012. This was like a long time ago. And people were calling it Asian grooming gangs. And of course, British Asians, as they were called at the time, British Asian grooming gangs. British Asians meant Pakistanis living in the Rotherham area, who were Muslim immigrants. And these were men who collected underage girls, sometimes as young as like 11, and not just groomed them. I mean, grooming sounds like grooming is what they do in the kindergarten classes now.
Yes.
This is not grooming. The documents that are online, and you can go search them, but I mean, just astonishing what's been released about these cases, and that this wasn't a bigger deal at the time. Now, part of the scandal at the time was, of course, that people went to the police for help, and the police were afraid to do anything about the so-called British Asian men because they were afraid that they would look racist if they prosecuted British Asian men for raping 11-year-old girls. And for example, so in these documents, this is from a reporter at the Telegraph is posting a bunch of these pieces. A senior police officer admitted that his force ignored the sexual abuse of girls by Pakistani gangs for decades because it was afraid of increasing racial tensions. After a 5-year investigation, the Independent Office for Police Conduct upheld a complaint that the Rotherham officer told a missing child's distraught father that the town would erupt if it was known that Asian men were routinely having sex with underage white girls. Having sex, of course, is a word for like if you're interested in exactly what we're talking about here, you can go Google it, but the most horrific, violent abuse that you can imagine, really.
Yes,
violent, like as in the girls needed surgeries afterwards to like fix stuff.
By simultaneous
multiple
rapists.
People on and on. The report revealed that in one instance, the father of a 15-year-old victim was told by an officer that it would teach her a lesson. The attack was so brutal, the teenager needed surgery afterwards. In another case, the report found one parent concerned about a missing daughter was told by an officer that it was a fashion accessory for girls in Rotherham to have an older Asian boyfriend and she'd grow out of it.
Asian.
Parents who attempted to rescue their children, let's see, cases where a child was doused with petrol, threatened with being set alight, children who were threatened with guns, children who witnessed brutally violent rapes, in other words, Asian grooming, obviously. What an insult to Asian people, by the way.
No kidding.
And were threatened that they would be the next victim if they told anyone. Girls as young as 11 were raped by large numbers of male perpetrators, one after the other. In 2 cases, we read fathers tracked down their daughters and tried to remove them from the houses where they were being abused, only to be arrested themselves when police were called to the scene. In a small number of cases, the victims were arrested for offenses such as breach of peace or being drunk and disorderly, with no action taken against the perpetrators of rape and sexual assault against children. So Islamophobia strikes again in England. So nice job, everybody there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just freaking absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's terrible top to bottom. All these stories are bad. And even like the violence that's in our society all the time now that has nothing to do with Islam or terrorism or anything. This guy who pushed somebody in front of a train in New York, who miraculously appears to be alive and in a stable condition.
Oh, is he really?
He has like broken ribs and a ruptured spleen, but he's like okay.
That's
incredible.
Amazing.
But I just like it feels like yesterday I was like so optimistic about where society's going, but it feels like there's a whole bunch of people out here that are like not fit to be in society.
Oh, totally. Well, but also, what does it mean if, look, we talked about the Hamas supporters in Manhattan right now. They're celebrating on the heels of a terrorist attack in this country.
Right.
That's a problem. That is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about needing to get armed. I mean, these freaking people feel so comfortable now. Just a total mess. Total mess. We'll see, though. We'll see if this guy, if if there are other people that they grab. I mean, I know they've picked up one more.
Yeah, so they're up to 3 people because there's the New Orleans guy, there's the Cybertruck guy, and there's the guy they arrested in Houston. I mean, and the fact that they're saying we're trying to determine if there's any more threat to the public, and not saying like there's no threat to the public at this time. We have no reason to believe there's any threat to the public. That means I think that they think there's a chance there's more happening here.
Yes.
But yeah, like I found the article I was reading earlier from the New York Post about this subway thing. This dude who pushed somebody in front of the subway has nothing to do with Muslim or anything else, or being an illegal immigrant or anything else. Camille Hawkins, he had previously stalked a woman last year, a Brooklyn woman who was mercilessly stalked by the deranged subway shoving suspect. Said he terrified her for weeks and is grateful she wasn't the one who he put in the hospital. It could have been me. It's sad. He could have finished school and become an IT tech. He could have left the projects. He could have changed his own story. Instead, Hawkins, 23, was arraigned on attempted murder and assault charges, et cetera, et cetera. He was already facing assault and harassment charges in Brooklyn when he shoved this other man who survived despite a skull fracture, broken ribs, and a ruptured spleen. But, I mean, here's the part. According to Hawkins' alleged stalking victim, the two met while studying at the Brooklyn Job Corps. She said after the two started hanging out, the relationship never turned romantic, and it quickly fizzled out after Hawkins slugged her dog for no reason.
Oh, really?
That's a sign of a good and stable person, I think. Somebody who punches a dog for no reason. Don't be too disturbed, Pepper.
Sorry, Pepper.
People in the chat saying they feel Pepper may have been roofied.
Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. She must have eaten or drank the wine I poured for you then. All right, Albie. Let's see. We should go to the chat.
Yes. I wish it was a happier New Year's Day with happier news.
I do like you in white, though, Alice.
I look like a waitress. It looks lame.
I like a waitress. Were you ever a waitress?
No. I mostly worked in retail stores. I worked in the kitchen at a restaurant, but never as a waitress.
Tom, thanks for your broadcast and sharing your bubonic plague with the rest of us.
Oh, sorry about that.
Crawled from your lungs up through your bronchial and your
that.
throat to your sinuses. That should be one for the New England Journal of Medicine.
I am better today, Dr. Cheswick, by the way.
I just wanted to comment on the Reagan thing. You guys were wondering if it felt like this when Reagan was elected. I was just going into high school at the time, and I didn't feel that way. And the only reason why is because, and at the time, I think people didn't feel that way as they do now, simply because the Democrats still controlled the House at that time. Yeah. Tip O'Neill was still the speaker, and through most of Reagan's presidency, all of it, as a matter of fact. So, he still had to fight them to get things passed, and change was slow, but it did come. And there were people making lots of money. Government contractors made tons of money fighting the Russians in the Cold War.
Sure.
Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it was a bit different. Now I feel like I have a lot more hope that things are going to change immediately, simply because you've got the House and the Senate, as tenuous as the House is, and Trump's just going to start using his pen and his phone. 127.
That's right. By the way, Alice, we got a lovely gift today from Europe. Yes. This was fantastic.
Thank you to Amy from Acton, currently living in Switzerland on a farm where her kids work on the farm.
The best thing about this was me and my neighbor, we usually make a date and with me and him and a third person to go and have a couple of beers over at a playground. And we bring the kids because we've all got kids. So we've got these camouflage little beer jacket things, whatever. So I'm sorry for sniffling. And so me and him met there, he and two of his kids. And so we said it was too cold. We said, well, this is too cold, man. Why don't you just come back to my place, Tom Shattuck's place, and you can use the Nintendo Switch that their uncle got them. Mm-hmm. And we'll let the kids play for a bit, and we'll hang out for a little bit at my home. So he walked up my driveway. My neighbor, with his 2 kids, he found the package. He saw that it was from Europe. He said, he came into said, Tom, you have a package. He witnessed us open this package, Alice, that was from a friend of the show, friend of ours, a fan, which means I'm famous, sent from Europe.
Very cool.
This is the same guy who was with me in Newburyport when 2 people got me.
Wow.
So this is everything.
He thinks you're really cool.
This is all that matters. All that matters is that he's going to tell other people. And this is huge. And so thank you. What was the product called?
So it was not this like brand. I have to look at the brand. We'll talk about it on the food show, but it was like one of those Panettone style cakes.
Yes.
Because I had said on the food podcast that they're dry, which usually the ones here are dry, but this was very like fluffy and sweet and yummy.
Yeah, it's a lovely cake. You know, I usually avoid the sponge part of cakes and only go for the frosting. But as luck would have it, we actually have a vat of frosting in this house right now, so I will frost it, Amy.
So there was that, and there was also some Swiss chocolate,
which was delicious,
there,
which
was
we
much
gave,
better.
we shared with the neighbors, so that I did imprint it on their minds forever that this is from a fan.
So thank
from
you,
thousands of miles away.
Thank you, Amy from Switzerland, formerly of Acton. She also shared a very funny story.
This could be an entire show on its own. What Alice is about to say, because do it yourself. Do the mind exercise yourself.
So she says she owns, like I said, she's on a farm in Switzerland and she has chickens, and she has a little Jerry Callahan sweatshirt. So that features our chicken, little Jerry Callahan. And she says she's found out about Tom from the Jerry Callahan show that she always listened to, because WEI was huge for her when she first moved to Switzerland, because that was like her connection to home.
Yes.
She said back in like 2005 is when she moved out there. And so she said it's like really hard to explain to people in Switzerland who ask when she's on her farm with her chickens what the little Jerry Callahan sweatshirt means, which is really funny when you think about it, because like, where do you even start with that? Like, is it with Seinfeld? Do you start with
it's an incredible but like hours long board game this could be. You're right. To start with, okay, do you know American baseball? Because if not, then it's over.
Yeah.
You know American baseball? Okay. You know American baseball. There's a radio show that covers American baseball. That one of the hosts is Jerry Callahan, who's very popular. Now, Jerry Callahan, predating Jerry Callahan by about 10 years, there was a show called Seinfeld. Do you know Seinfeld? Do you remember the one with the rooster named Little Jerry Seinfeld? Now, if you've gotten that far, you're there. And then we make it, you know, if you got that, then you
Morgan does imagine visiting Switzerland and bumping into a lady wearing a little Jerry Callahan sweatshirt at the market. It's true. It's like
she should really, if somebody comes up to her and says, "What's the deal with the shirt?" One of the choices should be, and I'm not advocating for this, to just strangle a person to death, because you don't have time. There's not enough time to explain how this comes. And then an hour into it, you're okay. So then Jerry is here. A guy named Tom Shattuck
used to be on Jerry's show.
Right. Years later, a guy named Tom Shattuck is on Jerry's show. Now work with me. Do not, Amy, do not get a give me your Napoleon shirt. Just don't. People are going to hate you.
I feel like that's easier to explain, honestly.
You know Dunkin' Donuts?
They've heard of a Napoleon.
You know Dunkin' Donuts, right?
They at least know one part of it.
You know Napoleon. The guy who
violently conquered your area of Europe, by the way.
Exactly. Okay, now put that over here. Yeah, no, it's great. It's so funny. It's so amusing. Just we've been thinking about it all day. Just how much, where you'd have to start. And thank you for the goods. Just, my goodness.
Very nice. And we'll cover the food review on the food show. In fact, the All You Can Eat podcast.
Yes, and I did. Once again, I want it known. I shared with 2 children, my next door neighbor. Mm-hmm. These aren't mine. And my own kids. This is.
You could have eaten all the cake and chocolate yourself.
I could have taken it, but I needed the glory, so I had to make it public, and then it imprints it when they eat. So Thank you so much, Amy. That was great. Are you ready, Alice?
I'm ready.
Ooh.
What?
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Hey, Alice.
Hi.
You guys were great on WTIC on New Year's Day together.
Thanks.
We didn't have any conspiracy calls. It was great. But I posted on Twitter 2 posts. The drones were set up so they could do a stratospheric aerosol injection.
Ooh.
So we'd all be infected through fog. That's what I'm going with. I even posted that there's gators being injected into these clouds.
I actually saw that. It is a gator-looking cloud. Go to Rudy, Florida on Twitter. It does look like a gator.
I don't know
actually
about
posted a picture.
you having no conspiracy calls today. You did have one person who said that the suspect in the truck attack may have been overly vaccinated.
Right. Or that the COVID had made him nuts.
Picture. There's proof. They're coming after us.
Here we go.
Through 5G stratospheric aerosol injections.
Could be.
By the drones into the fog. First it was the clouds. Now it's the fog. Mask up, baby. Mask up.
Here. It could be. By the way, the drone thing is not over. Oh, and by the way, that's a total number. You know, we mentioned this, I think, on the air today, that drone terrorist attacks are going to be the thing.
There was just a drone attack by Russia in Ukraine, like today.
Oh, terrorists and civilians?
I mean, not terrorists, but like 2 people died.
No, that's what's happening in the front lines.
They're being used in warfare, and look at how advanced China is with like the drone displays. If they can make a big pretty dragon in the sky, they can also attack stuff, guys. I'm just saying.
Easily. By the way, like what's prevent them from doing it offshore or from Mexico or like there's nothing. That's what's going to happen. The drone's going to be the next thing because that's a good, effective way for terrorism as well. And by the way, even more effective than any of these news agencies is these Twitter Spaces where all these dudes call in and talk about this stuff. Mm-hmm. But of course, what other way to make people more afraid than a silent drone from above, you know, dropping an explosive on you? Mm-hmm. It's like that's the way. It's going to happen. I'm not even saying it's not. It absolutely is.
Hey guys, Morgan.
Hey Morgan.
Here's to the beautiful ladies of 2024.
Yeah, here.
Going another year. Also, I just want to say thank you so much for continuing your show during the holidays. Everybody else thinks they can just take weeks off at a time. Kind of odd.
Yeah.
What job works like that? I don't really get it. So thank you for putting content out.
Thank you, Morgan.
You know, also having your terrible cold, Tom. That you're still drinking over the cold.
Yeah.
That's a good boy.
He's not going to stop for that.
Right over it.
Thank you. I agree. I believe in that.
Anyway, here's to the ladies. Love you guys. Happy New Year.
Thanks,
here.
Morgan. Happy New Year.
Here. Yeah. No, I can't imagine not having a show like today. I mean, my goodness.
Oh, we have to talk today.
Of course. And also,
most people want us to shut up, but we appreciate you guys that you like us continuing to talk during the holidays.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm also a podcast listener as well. And although Jerry did one yesterday, which is good.
How was the KMS Best Of?
I have not heard. You mean the one that Gus hasn't done? I haven't heard any of it yet. I'm not a fan of Best Of. I don't like Best Of. I don't like it. It bothers me that it's out there. I feel like I'm being used a little bit. Like even like Dana Perino put out a Best Of today with Ben Shapiro. It was pre-election Best Of. I'm like, what are you doing? Come on, man. It's not Best Of. It's just content to keep you remembering them while they're on vacation. I mean, you guys know that. Obviously, it's horse.
Next year, let's put out a worst of.
What is the worst of?
Let's find our worst content. We'll let people know in advance. This is our 10 worst shows of the year.
We should vote on the worst. There was a show we did, I think, maybe a month ago that I was like, I mean, we never don't try, so I'm not sure. I mean, we've been rushed a couple times. We've had
fights on the show.
Fights that have resulted in a 4-minute show. Yes, all sorts of near tragedies. Yeah, it's funny because, you know, we have new listeners all the time. And like there are people who started listening to us in the past couple of months and then are going back to the first episodes. Just think, those people
You're in for a ride.
You're in for a ride because right around January of, was it 2023?
January 2023, yeah. So 2 years ago.
Right around 2 years ago, the entire face of this show changes.
But I mean, there was weirdness before that because, like, when the show started off, it was just you.
Right. Well, why was that weirdness? That was
It was weird.
incorrect. It is amazing to me now, thinking about it, to fill an hour, and a couple of those were longer than that. Now now it's a conversation with you, so it's different. But and I also wasn't doing radio back then.
I used to listen to them in my Home Depot overnight shifts.
Oh.
I would listen to you.
Very nice. Here we go.
Tom, how many times are we going to have to listen to you tell us about that crotch blocking story from the Dominican Republic?
It totally. Sorry about that. The guy who did it knows who he is. He is a friend still. He was just texting a bunch of us the other day. It was a terrible story. I
guess you have told it on the show before.
I could have been great.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny thing is too that the guy who did that and another guy who was with us, both dudes from Dorchester, both. It's funny. They're both Italian, like third generation.
They're incredibly different people, though.
Mastro and Mike. They're Dorchester Italians' house.
They're pretty different.
But so they came from like strict Italian families, and it's so funny. These guys, Mastro was probably around 40 at the time we went there, and Mike was in his late 20s, and we went off the resort just once to check out this town, and all there was in this town was hookers, which we did not partake of, and a place where they would pierce your ears. And 3 of the guys got their ears pierced. And when they got back to Dorchester, took out their earrings because they were afraid their dads would see. Their Italian dads would smack them around because they got their ears pierced. I did not get my ear pierced. That would not have been.
They got like an AIDS test after that.
Yeah, knowing both of them, I think they had pre-existing conditions probably.
Dude, it's over. Steve is totally trolling you from 2,500 miles away. He's trolling you, dude.
Wait, hold on. Steve who?
Mastro.
Oh, Mastro?
Steve Mastro, yep.
Wait, hold on. Let me listen to this again.
It's over. Steve is totally trolling you.
No, Steve. Oh, I see. Steve from Merrimack, he means, is trolling me. Oh, I see. Oh, man, imagine those psyops.
From 2,500 miles away. He's trolling you, dude. Just let it go. Can you let it go?
I cannot let it go.
Please.
Do you realize what I could be right now had I settled down with that Italian princess right now? That was 25 years ago. What I could have been, what that would have done to my ego. I could have been great. Not spending my time with some 5'6" Serbian Scottish chick who's assaulted me with a phone, who has lots of kids. I could have been a great man, done great things. Jesus. Comes down to tiny little things. That's it.
Hope you enjoy babysitting while I'm at TED Talks next year.
That was my decision by JFK to, let's put the top down. November 22nd. That was my November 22nd decision.
Too soon.
Here we go. Oh, I see. It says, Tom, you're a spaz. That's what's happening here. How dare you? By the way, you're not allowed to say spaz anymore. It's spastic, I think. And that's
ableist.
That's right. How dare you? Although I was friends with Spaz in the radio station from WBCN Anthony Parziali. He was a great guy from Woburn. There was a whole bunch of BC.
Morgan says in the chat, we need the True Hollywood story of Tom Shattuck.
It's funny you say that. Do you know why that's funny?
Why is
because
that funny?
while we were after I was castrated by Mastro, and I would no longer had the company of any women in this resort full of naked drunk women.
I bet he did.
Yes, he did. I spent the rest of the time in my hotel room watching True Hollywood stories. Of this particular one was of dun 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 MC Hammer. That's right. That's a vicious beat down of me. Yeah, that was. It's funny too because I actually got up and played with the band because I played guitar. So I played with them. They were thrilled, of course, that I was jumping up there. Fat, bloated, resort
American a-hole.
Resort virgin, comes up there and we played Twist and Shout, and I remember our friends were most of the crowd was a bunch of our friends, and I finished, and the girl who cut her eyebrows off and eyelashes off berated me because she said I got the chords wrong. You did the chords wrong for the middle part. Dun 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 dun. She said, you did it wrong. You did the wrong key with no eyelashes and no nothing. Like, this is my vacation. This is what's happening for me. There is wonderful things happening for everybody else. I've got some psycho Aryan chick who's got no more fur above her neck berating me about the chord changes. Holy frig. What if they're wrong, okay? It's close enough, chick, Fräulein. Holy frig. Oh. All right.
Sorry Biden made you so mad today that you're just in a mood.
Did I tell you that when I was at my work in Farmington, Connecticut, 2 months ago, when I went for a walk and all I could smell was burning toast? Which means you're about to have a stroke. Yeah, I'm like, unless there's a fucking toast factory around here, I am done in any second now.
You probably had a stroke. You probably just don't go to the doctor.
That's a good point.
Do you remember when you went to urgent care?
Yeah.
When you were in a standoff with your primary care physician,
Yeah.
because they wouldn't give you more blood pressure medication unless you went in for a test, and you wouldn't go in for the test.
Yes.
So you were in a standoff with them, so you had no more blood pressure medication.
Yeah, because he was Rotherhamming me every time I went there.
So then you go to urgent care for your ingrown toenail.
And they all started working on me and I brought out the pedals. Yeah. Alice, these are all serious medical issues. I don't know why.
So you go to the urgent care for your ingrown toenail, and they refuse to treat your ingrown toenail and demand that you immediately seek emergency medical help because your blood pressure meant that you were basically having a stroke all the time.
Yeah, he said stroke is way back here. You're way over here. You're casket shopping. You're it's over. And I remember I said to the guy, can I still take my walks? He said, no. They wouldn't do anything. Jesus, everybody calm the freak down. God. I know this is how you emote, Alice. I know it's so emotional for you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm glad we reached a point of levity after the very serious.
As well to my family. This was really a heartwarming thing. That the other day when we were in our crawl space third floor playroom, I nailed my head on a door that's meant for people Alice's size, like hobbinettes. And I nailed my head on the door, and I was in abject pain screaming. My one son didn't come out because he didn't want to deal with it. He could hear me, and my wife was absolutely celebrating the fact that I was in pain. She assumed that I had fallen and that there was something that was going to be fun happening.
No, I warned you in advance that door frame was very low. I had hit my head on it earlier.
Warning in advance. This is the whole thing with when your wife tells you she's having problems, don't try to fix them. I didn't need a reminder of a warning in advance, Alice. I actually needed Help! My skull, my cranium.
You just walked into a door frame.
My cranium is shattered now.
It's fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Anyway.
Do you realize that, like, in any given room I'm in, if somebody, instead of swatting us, like for January 20th, instead of swatting us, somebody tells EMTs somebody needs an ambulance in that room, they're going to grab me. Sir, no,
Tommy
sir.
in New Hampshire says in the chat, working in urgent care end of your shift in Shattuck.
Sir, we simply, and he actually said this. He's like, we simply just don't have the equipment for this. What you are. We don't. Sorry about that. I mean, we could probably come up or jerry rig some kind of embalming fluid, I guess. But other than that, sort of.
We don't sell coffins here.
No, we could probably burn you.
Thank you guys. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us in the live chat on Patreon. I'm glad we got to a humorous place of levity and happiness after the very tragic news today.
C'est la vie.